Chapter 1. "Don't let him into a crate," came Corporal Bruce Bannockburn's voice through the radio on Officer Norman Green's shoulder. The night air was thick and hot, and the rookie sucked in the lungful he needed to keep sprinting. Officer Green had no intention of letting this son of a bitch magician get into any goddamn crate. He was only human, but if there was one thing humans, or any prey for that matter, got plenty of practice with, it was running at top speed. All he had to do was keep the suspect within his sight. That was rule number 1 when in a foot pursuit with a magician. Keep eyes on them at all times. To be fair, that was an important rule of police work no matter what type of creature you were dealing with. Still, when it came to magicians, you didn't have to worry about them pulling a weapon so much as vanishing entirely. Into thin air, as it were. The suspect, ID'd as Kyle Todd, a.k.a. Trombolo the Tremendous, wore a black satin cape that fluttered behind him as he took a hard left and slipped around the corner of a rusty steel crate. On the whole, he hated foot pursuits, and Kilhaven's largest shipping yard wasn't exactly an ideal location for keeping eyes on anyone. But at least it was relatively well lit. He expected the magician to have already disappeared by the time he rounded the corner, so he was pleasantly surprised to find that wasn't the case. "Got eyes on him again," he called into his radio. This was not the kind of magician Green remembered from his childhood in the predominantly human town of Bowers. Those magicians were simply illusionists that gave the impression of magic. Weren't they? Since moving to Kilhaven and joining the force, he wasn't so sure. Because in this metropolis, where smog was a normal weather condition, and unidentified pools of liquid in the streets and gutters outlasted even the most severe drought, the term magician meant something else entirely. Namely, a pain in the ass of every law enforcement officer. Corporal Bannockburn's voice came through again. "Location 907? Turned left after a yellow one, then turned right a few—" "Never mind, just keep on him." As far as he'd glimpsed, this guy was unarmed, but you never could tell what these assholes had up their sleeve. Literally. He'd heard horror stories at the substation of magicians pulling fully loaded Uzis from behind ears, and even one tale about a cornered magician transforming himself into a giant pipe bomb with a flourish of his cape. From Green's own limited experience, though, the magic was usually much pettier. Making stolen items disappear so that not even the most thorough pat-down or cavity search could find them, or simply jumping into an open box or closet to escape custody. That was the most present danger here. If any of the shipping crates weren't properly secured, and if this caped dipshit decided to use his brain instead of his annoyingly agile and toned legs, they might be short a suspect. Regardless, Green was gaining on him. It had started with a simple trespassing call. Of course, calls were never reliably simple. He was starting to understand that. But even the corporal, who Green had been riding double with for the last month as a precaution, thought this would be straightforward. Then they'd glimpsed the man's black cape through the shipyard office's window, and both knew this was not going to go smoothly. And it would be complicated further, no doubt, by Green's condition. But so far, that hadn't come into play, and maybe it wouldn't. There were entire calls where it was a non-issue. "Stop! Police!" Green called when he was within 10 feet of the man. He pulled his taser, but his gun wasn't far from his mind if it came to that, and he hoped it didn't. "On your knees! Hands on your head!" The magician pulled up when he realized what Green already had. He was cornered. Tall red and yellow and blue metal rose up on all sides.